If you like music and you like podcasts and you like to laugh and you like to learn, you need to immediately subscribe to One Hit Thunder. Each week on the One Hit Thunder podcast, we dive deep into the story and back catalog of a one-hit wonder band or artist. From there, we have a good, healthy discussion as to whether they brought the one-hit thunder or were nothing more than a one-hit blunder. We have a huge back catalog, and we've done episodes on everything from Don't Worry, Be Happy and the Macarena to King of Wishful Thinking and Cumbersome. I promise you're going to love the show more than Jaquan loved getting tipsy, and even more than Bobby Boris Pickett loved making alternate versions of the Monster Mash. Subscribe to One Hit Thunder wherever you get your podcasts.
Everybody, and welcome to another episode of Horror Movie Night. This week, we got that 10-year rule in full effect as we're talking about 2012's Grabbers, as picked by Scott on what I imagine is a bit of a whim.
It wasn't a whim. I had this planned for quite a while. I just wanted to talk in a fucking Irish accent so bad.
Dude, it's not bad. It's not bad.
Thanks, I'm married to an Irish
Better
woman.
than the accents that we heard in Loch Ness Horror, so...
They should have called me up in 1980. It would have been much better.
I sat down and I watched this movie a week ago, which I never do. I'm usually a day before kind of guy, but there was a little bit of a scheduling issue. So I'm looking at the notes.
It was my fault.
No, I'm not going to call out anybody.
I'm being transparent here.
Yeah. Transparent. And I looked at the notes and I realized I don't remember a fucking thing about this movie.
Really?
Like as I read my notes, I remembered a few things about this movie. But my memory of this movie is, thanks to Scott, I remember that it had some really strong accents in there, and that it involved some type of like octopus type creatures attacking a small town, and that alcohol is somehow the solution. That's as far as I got on my memories of this, beyond like a few little... But like one of my notes, I have maybe 6 notes, and one of them is just calling out that they watched the public domain Night of the Living Dead.
Every time.
Every goddamn time.
So not a very useful note for remembering what happens in this movie.
That's actually a worse note. It could open up the door to about 10 other movies that might be confusing, you know.
But so Scott, why did you go with Grabbers on this? Was it really just for the accent?
Because he hardly knows her. Sorry.
I literally picked this because I knew that it was finally 10 years old, and I was waiting for some aquatic horror. I'd never seen it before, but I knew that it was Irish. I knew that it was sea monsters. Well, they are alien sea monsters for those who have not seen the film. And I knew that they had to get drunk to not get eaten by the Grabbers. That was enough for me, and I'm going to tell you guys, I'm having a little bit of morning after memory, if you will, because also we're almost at 400 episodes at this point. And if you take into account Patreon and bonus episodes, we're way beyond 400 episodes. So I can't remember all of the episodes that I have picked something without watching at least a little bit of it. This is arguably, very arguably, the most entertaining that I had to make myself take notes on because of ones that I've picked because I was just like engrossed. It wasn't a lot of stuff to make jokes about. I just thought that it was an entertaining little film, and I really want people to watch it. So if it boils down to why should you watch Grabbers, beyond the fact that you're gonna have to listen to me use this fucking accent all night, it's because it's just a fun movie that didn't really get a whole lot of traction. Like, it's not on any streaming service for free. It should be on Shudder because it's perfect.
This is Shudder exclusive. Like this is as good as any Shudder exclusive.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
If not better. Like I definitely, You know, it's funny. The same page that I have my Grabbers notes on, it also has my mosquito notes on it. And and looking at that,
Both
I
starting out the same way.
Well,
I also picked this because Loch Ness Horror was recently and Up from the
Yeah.
Depths. So there's a reason there's a method to my madness.
Yeah.
It's just aquatic.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's this element of like, I think I would watch Mosquito again sooner than I would watch Grabbers again. But they're both like equally inoffensive, perfectly fine. Like I would say 3 out of 5 star movies, right? Like they're just like
we should have watched this movie in a group. I think that would have been more fun. Mosquito is just like a little bit more bombastic. This takes itself a little bit more seriously. I think it's also because there's a 20-year gap between them being made, and things were just a little bit different in America in 1992 or whatever when Mosquito is being made. So I don't know. Like I think that this movie, for being a 2012 film, I think that it is funnier than we're giving it credit, because if you can remember back a decade, there wasn't a whole lot of fun foreign film being made. A lot of it was, I mean, and we're really in a kind of like the dead zone of comedic horror that's not over the top horror comedy still. Yeah. And I don't know if we'll ever get back to it, because for better or for worse, and I would say for worse, the vast majority of horror is just so fucking dour now. I just want I mean, this movie, I wouldn't consider this movie by American standards to be a horror comedy, but it is labeled on Amazon as a horror comedy. I think that for like Irish audiences, it's a horror comedy. I mean, like and its guts are comedic. Yeah. But it's not like the beats they don't really hit like Tucker and Dale, or even Freaky. Like Freaky came out 2 years ago?
Yeah. No, it's an interesting, but I think that there's like these moments that I mean, a movie that I'm going to definitely compare it to a couple times, and please don't take this as you can't pick it as a double feature, but I feel like you have to compare this movie to something like a Shaun of the Dead, where it hits a lot of those similar beats. But I think the one part where I kind of checked out because it was almost too dumb for me, but I give more forgiveness to Shaun of the Dead, is the aspect of like, oh, we have to be drunk in order to like fulfill this plot, and like the drunk acting is almost like too over the top at that point, versus like Shaun of the Dead. Like I like the idea that like Shaun of the Dead, it's like these guys are such alcoholics that being drunk has zero effect on them, and they're probably more effective at killing zombies if they're drunk out of their gourd than if they were stone sober, because they have like no worries or cares.
Drunk characters are so hard to like
that's a moving target.
I feel like it's so because I don't know, it's like because you want to act as if you don't think that you're drunk, because that's how a drunk person would act. But I don't know, maybe it's a cultural thing too, because they just talk about how drunk they are all the time. So it's like they are also actors playing drunk who know that they're drunk at the pub. So it's it is hard to get into that.
I like this line of reasoning from both of you guys, because I absolutely agree. But I want to say that while the Irish cultural concept of drinking is very deeply ingrained from like an outsider's perspective, I wonder if they kind of tread a little bit lighter on it here, because they knew this was going to be an export movie, and they didn't want it to be like, oh, we're all fucking lushes, they didn't want to really play into the stereotype that foreigners may have about the Emerald Isle. And so I think that's one aspect of it. But the other aspect, and I want to give props to the fact, I mean, there's also the fact that they literally grab everybody from church and from a Catholic mass and take them to the bar to get drunk so that they don't get eaten by space aliens, which I think really works better on paper. And I do want to say that the very end of the second act, beginning of the third act, drags like fuck in this movie. And I definitely fast forward a little bit, because it was the same thing that happens in zombie movies when they're like, oh, gotta have a last stand, and they're like, trying to figure out a plan. That shit is boring. So like I did fast forward about 10 minutes, like skipping every 30 seconds to kind of get to more action. That's just me being completely transparent. But I do want to give one quick shout out to a drunk actor in this. It's Lisa. So for the uninitiated, this movie's concept is that the more or less sheriff, like the head policeman on this island in Ireland, is going on a holiday for 2 weeks, and so he gets some woman from the mainland, I believe, to come and be his stand-in. She's
Irish Hillary Swank.
Yes, more or less. And so she is very straight-laced and has never been drunk, and then her partner is the second in command on the island, who is a consummate drunk. And the whole point is that they figure out that these space aliens that are in the water that look like, octopuses with teeth are trying to suck your blood. So this is really mosquito in the water in Ireland. I did not realize that when I picked them in succession, but I love it and I stand behind it.
What is he going to pick next?
There's literally nothing else except like a vampire movie that we could go to next from here. There's no other jumping off point. So anyway, they find out that the space monster sea creatures will not drink your blood if it is above a certain blood alcohol content. They try and get everybody drunk to save the island because they're like, they can only get around if it's wet. And so it's about to be a storm. And they're like, if we can just ride out the storm in the pub, everybody's drunk, they can't get eaten by the grabbers. And then, shit happens, obviously. So, but Lisa is the guard from the mainland, and she has a really cute fake drunk laugh, in my opinion. Yeah. Like, nobody else is really great at drunk, and it's kind of annoying, but her little drunk laugh is very infectious.
When she's drunk in the church and like calling people out for not listening to him, it's fucking great. It's because it's like it's subtle enough, but she is also hammered.
Yeah, but it's like she got past the peak of being drunk in the bar. It's been like an hour or two, and she's kind of just at the sloppier, but not falling all over yourself drunk, which is really how you have to play a drunk character, I think, to make a movie work.
Yeah. I think that honestly, and I liked this a lot. I thought that it was like pretty smart and everything was like tied together nicely, and like they crossed their T's and dotted their I's with having to do like the science behind it all. But like horror wise, it was relatively tame. Like it just wasn't, there was no real gore.
I think only two people got eaten. 3 people?
Yeah.
I mean, not very many people.
Was this a 3-way first time watch? Did any of us see this before?
This shit is so obscure, dude. I only know about it because of the cover.
Yeah, I was gonna say the box art I distinctly remember, and I don't know why.
I mean, it looks like every other box art that came from that year, so I don't know why it stuck out to you. Because
are you sure? The one? Are you talking about the one with? It looks kind of like cut out paper with the woman whose head is coming off.
I'm thinking about the one that looked like the Tremors cover. There's one that straight up looks like it's a Tremors sequel.
No, I'm talking about the one that looked like when that DVD release of Alligator that you gave away during the live stream. It just looks like a Walmart cover of like a octopus movie.
Sucks. They must have had that made by somebody on Fiverr for about $40 before they exported it out of Ireland. Because the cool thing I love about I don't know if it's all the European countries, but a lot of European countries have like a film board that pays for you to make movies. Love it. Yeah. Fucking Americans don't have that.
No, whenever I see that lottery come up or like whatever they, because sometimes it's a lottery, sometimes it's like totally government funded, and I'm just like, I just swoon. And then sometimes it's a shit movie, and I'm like, you asshole! Why'd you let them do this? No, but this one was pretty tight. There was the sprinkler gag is really great when they're in the lab and they're just gonna light it on fire without considering that the sprinkler is gonna go off. It's just like simple shit like that sort of like turns it on its head. Was a lot of fun. This dude looked like an Irish Jason Sudeikis meets Andy Serkis.
He did. He seriously did.
And I've seen him in other
that guy
stuff.
Is like, he's the bar owner, right?
Oh no, the lead guy, the drunk.
I'm sorry. Owner.
The bar owner I've seen in a bunch of other shit too, and I could not place him for the life of me.
I love when he's drunk and he's like. They're all just Okay, so I know that I was going along with Matt criticizing the drunk acting. There is I think that the best joke, there are 2 amazing jokes when they're all shit-faced in the back room and the mail grabber is coming to he's outside and they have this super soaker filled with petrol and they're like, the first fucking amazing thing is that they thought that this was going to work, and then they go outside, they light it and they go outside, and it just doesn't work, and it's just like a completely worthless plan. I love that.
Oh, that they light a candle and then run out into the rain to utilize it.
Yeah,
Like,
fantastic.
It's like,
I love that. That's exactly a drunk idea. Right before that, I think my favorite joke of the movie is the bar owner is like so drunk, he's laying on the floor. Oh no, I'm sorry, it's the scientist who's like so drunk, he's laying on the floor, and the bar owner has the super soaker filled with petrol. And he's about to go outside. He's like, oh, like, you know, he's getting the water pressure ready to attack the grabber with it. And the guy goes, yo, don't be a hero. Fantastic.
He was great. I mean, he was grain alcohol fucked up, and it was just like it was over the top. But he was a riot too.
I was Googling Grabber's DVD because I wanted to see what the different types of box art were.
Uh-oh. How far did you scroll?
Well, no, this was not too far that I was scrolling. It was a bunch of the same box art. And then I saw this box art, and I couldn't understand why it was showing up for Grabbers, because it was the Family Favorites Fun Pack, 10 movies for $5 on Amazon.com. And I just want to read you, Grabbers did not make the cut. I still don't know why this was showing up on the Google image search for Grabbers, but just a truly horrendous collection of 10 movies that I want to read off.
I need this.
A lot of John Goodman movies. Mm-hmm. King Ralph, Cop and a Half, The Wizard, Cloak and Dagger, Matinee, which is great.
Oh, yeah.
Sergeant Bilko, Ghost Dad.
Oh, my God.
No.
Ed, the movie where Matt LeBlanc plays baseball with a monkey.
Yeah, that's on my Patreon picks.
No.
A Simple Wish, and The Borrowers. Just the worst that the 90s family film genre had to offer, and Matinee.
Damn.
And Matinee's the only connective tissue that I can think of where maybe it got tied up to the word Grabbers somewhere in there. But yes.
Or maybe somebody thought Borrowers they were called them little grabbers.
Yeah, they're like, oh, those little grabbers.
Those little grabbers.
I do want to talk about one of the biggest strikes that I have on this movie is that while the creature design looks fantastic, the 2012 CGI at points do not work. And like a prime one that shows up to me is like, there's the scene where the grabber jumps on the dude's face. And it's like that scene would have been so much more enjoyable and funny to me if he was holding a physical thing that he was.
Yeah, the Bruce Campbell School of Fighting Imaginary Things.
Or even, I'll take the much lower budgeted one of the Bela Lugosi budget of fighting an inanimate object.
Oh, it would play so much better.
Just seeing him run around with like a poorly CGI'd creature flopping all around him, I'm like, this could have been a 10. Like, this moment could have been like a great, hilarious, like, horror comedy moment. And I think it just falls flat on both horror and comedy because of the CGI.
Yeah, it makes that elapsed time feel a lot longer than it actually is. It's just like, okay, we saw really, the tentacles.
Yeah, that's kind of the big strike, because like when they show the creature laying on the table and you know that that's not just like a CGI'd imported thing, it looks fucking great.
Yeah.
And it's like the age-old question from 10 years ago, which was like, you clearly made a practical thing for these scenes.
Yeah.
Why are you then leaning so hard into the CGI for everything else?
So silly. So silly.
Yeah.
I do know that at the end
I
of
was wondering
movie,
about that.
At the end of this movie, love wins. So I'm drinking Love Wins between a crab and a turtle. It's the Niantic Public House Pride IPA.
Yeah, circle of life right there.
I did have a fresh catch from Narragansett, which had a lobster on it, in my fridge, but my beautiful fucking wife, Carly, drank it. Just I like getting really angry, but just calling her nice names while I present it
that's
angrily.
really. I think that we need to do
the love
that.
of my life.
we all white dudes married to women need to take a line from Kyle's book and just love your wife aggressively.
Aggressively
Emotionally
to other people.
aggressively, not physically.
Presentationally to other people.
Yes.
But anyway, that's neither here nor there. But it was lovely. It was a lovely romantic romp on an Irish isle. It was fun. I thought it was a fun movie. There were some lulls, and I think not lulls like laughing, lulls as in slow parts.
L-U-L-L-S.
Yes, L-U. But that was a fun pick because it was. I think I remember that movie coming out. I think maybe I read about it in a Fangoria or on Dread Central or something. You know what I mean? And but it was one of those movies that came out in that slew of 2011, 2012, 2013 movies that I was just like, I don't care about these. That was a good pick.
Did you guys catch, there's one thing that I thought that I was taking crazy pills when I heard it. Did you guys catch a little stinger that was more or less Binary Sunset? I swear, in the end of the second act, I'm pretty sure that stinger was composer being like, I'm going to do Binary Sunset, but not get sued. I'm pretty sure. I have to go back and listen.
I did not catch that, and I also don't know what you're talking about.
He played Binary Sunset.
Oh, that's good.
Real quick, before we sign off on this, not that I think that this got a big box office release, but we do have to draw attention to the fact that this is one hell of a bomb here. This was made for $5.3 million and pulled in a box office of $440,000.
Oh my God.
So,
damn, Ireland, you bet on the wrong seahorse.
Support for Horror Movie Night is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Their products are precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped's Performance Package is the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the promo code HMNPodcast at manscaped.com. If your math is correct, that's about 8 million balls. Well, guys, I don't know about you, but I got that Performance Package 4.0, and man, oh man, it has been a game changer. I've had the lawnmower for a little bit, actually. Manscaped sponsored another one of my podcasts, but I have been having nose hair issues for years, and that weed whacker took care of that real fast, I will tell you.
Dude, I've got a schnoz. I do. I got a schnoz.
And this is the schnoz cast, okay? The three of us.
I'm 30, so I don't have, 60, 70-year-old man nose hair yet. But it's starting to curl. It starts to curl right at the nostril, right?
Mm-hmm,
and it's noticeable mostly to me, luckily. So I'm like, I want to take care of it early, and this thing is so good.
We got to talk about the lawnmower a little bit because, between the three of us, we do have 6 nuts, not necessarily evenly divided, but being able to get that clean shave with this thing, they've never felt smoother on this end. I can tell you that much.
I mean, I can agree. Matt's balls have never felt smoother. Having tools at my disposal to make it faster, easier, and more aesthetically pleasing, I'm not going to say no to it.
A really great feature is that the Lawnmower 4.0 specifically, it's waterproof and it has a 400K LED spotlight, so you can get that.
I love the spotlight. I did not read the manual and know that it was waterproof, so I did not do it in the shower because I have never had a waterproof one.
Dude, your bathroom floor will never look cleaner now. You can just go in.
Yeah, I don't want to have to clean twice.
What we're promoting this month through Manscaped is the Performance Package 4.0 specifically, because you get that Lawnmower 4.0, you get the Weed Whacker that we talked about, but then on top of that, you're also going to get your Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and your Crop Receiver Ball Toner that are going to change your approach to your hygiene routine. And then on top of that, they're going to throw you some boxers and a travel bag.
That DOP kit is sick.
And I'll tell you what, the boxers, when I did the last sponsorship with Manscaped on the other show, they sent me a pair of boxers, and they're great for gym and running boxers.
Yeah, they're kind of halfway between a regular boxer brief and a compression brief.
Use our promo code, get a discount. You're going to get 20% off your purchase and free shipping if you use HMN Podcast when you go to manscaped.com. I'm going to repeat that, 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com by using the promo code HMN Podcast. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped.
Mom, can you just let the viewers know that they can get 20% off with HMN Podcast?
Viewers, you can get 20% off with the code HMN Podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much, Mom.
Let's talk double features. Scott, you're in the hot seat, buddy. What's your double feature for your pick? Grabbers.
I like the term hot seat. It's so fun.
Your buns are burning.
Buns are burning, baby. I mean, it is 95 degrees outside. Not in the house, but it is 95 degrees outside today. So there is a hot seat to be had if I were to go sit on the driveway. I'm going to go with another much more famous and more entertaining horror comedy featuring Bruce Campbell from the Bruce Campbell School of Fighting Inanimate Objects, Evil Dead 2, because people get sprayed in the face with stuff and people fight inanimate objects, and it's just definitely influenced by Evil Dead 2.
All right. Kyle?
I thought you were going to go My Name is Bruce, which I've never seen. I just remember
I have
it being
not seen
advertised.
either.
Yeah. I the whole time I was watching it, I have two. The whole time I was watching it, I just kept wanting to watch the birds. I don't know if it was just like the seaside thing, and maybe the fact that the birds is probably a better movie.
Probably. I love that it's probably a better movie.
Hey,
this
book
film
is...
that AFI has been like, oh, this is among one of the 100 greatest films ever made. It might be comparable to Grabbers.
Possibly. I was just getting vibes. That's all. I was just getting vibes. But I think that I actually would want to pair it with Slither.
That makes a lot of sense.
A little more gooey, a little funnier.
A lot more gooey.
A lot more gooey, truly. Like very, very gooey. So I think I think Slither is my actual double feature.
I genuinely can't remember if I already picked this for a double feature within the last month. So I apologize if I'm doubling down on the same movie in the same month. I'm going to get crazy. I'm going to pick a mini series from the 90s. Peter Benchley's The Beast, which is about a seaside area getting decimated by a giant squid. So
I remember watching that on TV, and
I'd have
it
taped
was
VHS
dumb
of
as
it.
hell.
Yeah.
You have the book, right, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
Want to make sure.
Great cover. Scott, what did you watch that you just have to tell us about?
I got something for you guys. But before we do that, I got a question for you, Kyle. This summer, I have been, let's just say the last week, I have been really jonesing for some late 80s, early 90s Clive Barker paperbacks. Now, does Horror Finds, anybody listening, go check out Horror Finds on Etsy. It's Kyle's shop. He's got a lot of cool shit. But if you do not have any Clive Barker from that time period, if you do find some Clive Barker this summer, please message me.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you right now, because
he's checking.
Currently we only have Cabal in the shop. So if you wanted to ever read up on Nightbreed, what ended up becoming Nightbreed the film, would be Cabal.
Have you read it? I don't remember
I've not
if I
read
read
it.
it or not.
I have.
No.
Cabal's a pretty good one, actually.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it's technically a novella. Is it a novella?
No, it's longer than it's
longer.
I mean,
Okay.
it's probably a good 300-400 pages.
Yeah.
So, Scott, one last thing that I'll throw out there. One of my absolute favorite Clive Barker anything, and it was kind of what got me into reading comics again for a really long time, is a 2-book graphic novel series called Great and Secret Show. It's an adaptation of his book, Great and Secret Show. The artwork is done by Gabriel Rodriguez, who did all of the artwork for the Lock and Key comics. Just the most fucking gorgeous artwork you'll ever see in a graphic novel.
That
that's
could
just
get me to read Great and Secret Show, I think.
Yeah.
Because that was, when Clive Barker wrote that, I feel like it was when he and Neil Gaiman were both really going towards fantasy a bit more. And I know Neil Gaiman was never straight horror, but I guess I just feel like, and it's funny because Clive Barker writing Great and Secret Show, which became a comic book, Neil Gaiman writing comic books, then writing Neverwhere, which is a book. It's kind of like inverse, but
it's a weird thing. But yeah, it's a good, I mean, the artwork alone, I couldn't tell you too much about the story. I read it 15 years ago, but the images in that book have not left my brain as probably still. It's probably the number one reason why I still say Gabriel Rodriguez is my favorite artist, is just because that book and Lock and Key, the images pop up in my brain as just being so vivid and memorable.
I thank you so much for the suggestion, because I will 100% find a copy of that. I'll find a collection.
Yeah, I think I got both of them on Amazon for $300 or $3 used, each book.
Okay,
you know what I mean?
that's definitely in my budget.
I like the sound of that.
There was a 4-part series in 1995 when Marvel was like, oh shit. I don't know if it was Image Comics getting popular or if it was DC Vertigo just dominating adult comic, like that older, more mature comic scene in the late 80s, early to mid 90s. It was written by Warren Ellis, and it's Druid, which is Dr. Druid, who is in the same kind of Marvel pantheon as Doctor Strange. He would definitely have been in Doctor Strange comics in the 70s and 80s. And the whole point of it is that Dr. Druid is a washed up superhero, and he makes a pact with the three-faced goddess, like Irish, like the Celtic goddess, then goes on this like murder spree for four issues. It's just like, it was in the summer of 95. It was just a 4-part miniseries, and then Lucifer comes and like tells him to fucking chill out, and then he gets murdered at the very end. And it's a great series, one of my all-time favorite miniseries that Marvel has ever done. That is very similar to what Matt is talking about, where the art has stuck in my craw for, what are we at, 20 some years, 26 years, 27 years. And the art was by Leonardo Manco. And I had to look it up. I have no idea what else that guy did, but it was just so like grungy 1995, ultimate 1995 alt comic book art. Highly recommend. The reason I mentioned that was to relate to my what did we watch from.
Well, Jose, and I need to close this out real quick.
Okay.
Guys, you've been listening to Clive and Comic Cast, the podcast within a podcast, and now we return you to your regularly scheduled horror movie night podcast. Scott, tell us about your what did I watch?
I love it.
So I am absolutely in love with The Boys season 3.
Oh my God, yes.
I was talking to Mario, and longtime listeners know Mario. He's my best friend from growing up, and we text every single day. I talk to him probably as much, if not more, than my horror movie night co-hosts. Coasts. I'm gonna call you guys coasts.
I'll take
my
it.
coasters. I told him today, I was like, dude, I hate myself because every Friday night when we get in bed, like no matter how late it is, if it's like 11 p.m., midnight, I still stay up and I watch The Boys. And then it makes the week drag until next Friday night when I can watch the next episode of The Boys. I think as of the recording of this, I'm only on episode 5. It's just amazing TV. And I have not been this anxious for another episode of a serialized TV show this bad since Mandalorian, season 1 of Mandalorian.
This is a really good season. To promote another Geekscape podcast, but Bingetown has been doing their weekly episode reviews, and they said it so beautifully when they were doing their episode 1 review, where they just said, in the first 5-10 minutes of this episode, I was like, this just doesn't feel like The Boys that I know. And then right at the 10-minute mark, it felt like The Boys that I know. It's very quickly.
I feel like every season has to have one incredibly fucked up gore scene, and then everything else is just a goopy cherry on top.
Kyle, I'm assuming with Hunter, you haven't had a chance to sit down and take in The Boys. So what have you been watching lately?
Yeah. The TV viewing has taken a back seat, but I do manage to throw in a VHS tape that I bought while I was with Good Company down for the live stream. I bought one of the 4 VHS movies that I got was another Focus on the Family's film called No More Baths.
Oh, yeah.
So if anybody's familiar with the Buttercream Gang and how I went off on that, I was expecting something of a similar suit. This is actually a finely made movie. It's not it obviously has its tone-deaf Christian overtones. It's not as abhorrent as fucking Buttercream Gang, but it's about a group of kids, elementary/middle school kids, who cut through this man's yard named Pete, I think. His name's Pete. He's a black man who lives in a fucking shack behind a big mansion that was built on the property next to him. So it's just already sort of leaning into how
Uncomfortable ick a little bit.
yeah, dude, big time. But these kids love cutting through his yard. He always gives them high fives on the pathway to school, and he's a very cheery old black man who also looks like he shouldn't have been in 1990. Maybe it's more like the 60s, but that's the point that they're trying to make. Anyway, it's all about how these kids, how they like fence off the pathway, and these kids are like, well, why can't we see him anymore? And it's because this big real estate like mogul is trying to like, flush him out so he can build on his land, and then they get taught about civil rights briefly, and then the kids go out and picket and all this stuff, and it's like, it's a feel good, like these kids are trying to stand up for something that they have no idea what they're up against, but they turn the hearts of the town / the real estate mogul and blah, blah, blah. But I will say that the most tone-deaf thing of this whole movie is that it's Christian Mormon, and they're trying to present nice, beautiful, equal values. And like, even though they don't do it well the whole movie, they at least like present it until the end when they turn the real estate mogul, and he's all for it, and like he loves his own son who's part of this protesting situation. But then they turn on a fire hose, and they all celebrate in the water of the fire hose. And I'm just like, you can't do this whole civil rights thing and then have kids dancing in the water of a high-pressure water hose. It's called No More Baths because they take a bath strike, and that is the final straw. So they pick it doesn't work. They do this other thing, it doesn't work. They take a bath strike, and I guess it works. And then that's why they spray the hose, because they're finally going to take a big old bath together. But it's just like that was just the worst thing they could have done at the end.
That's a little, just a teensy bit tone deaf.
But I'm sitting there bummed because it's not as offensive on my eyes as Buttercream Gang and in my soul as Buttercream Gang until the very last moment. But that's what I ended up watching recently.
All right. And I will turn this little conversation into a slight promotion. I want to talk about a movie. I messaged you guys in the group about it probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's a documentary. I don't know if it's still on Hulu by the time this episode drops, which is 7852 Alfred Hitchcock's Shower Scene, which is an incredible documentary, especially if you care about editing. The name of the documentary essentially comes from the length of the scene, which is 78 seconds, and the amount of cuts in those 78 seconds, which is 52 cuts. And like breaking down like frame by frame what those represent, how that scene kind of changed cinema forever because it was like such a shocking, appalling thing. And it is a really interesting deep dive. There's this beautiful segment of the movie where they just have a group of editors all sitting on a couch watching the scene together and like pointing out like these random moments. But I love it because Elijah Wood's there too. Like it's all of these editors and just Elijah Wood hanging out. And this week, as you're listening to this episode, we'll be gearing up to be at San Diego Comic-Con at booth 3919. You can come by and get some Horror Movie Night shirts or some of our convention trading cards. So we've got a nice deck of trading cards on the way. It's going to be a blast. It's so exciting to be back at Comic-Con after 3 years. Gonna go get some dinner with the Fright School boys. But that was Grabbers from 2012 as picked by Scott. We will be back next week with even more Horror Movie Night.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.